in the same way that people don't want to pay more in taxes than necessary, no one, I think, really likes to see their retirement balances go down. Seeing money go down in a falling stock market isn't fun, but it's not always doom and gloom. Market strategist Ken Polcari was recently on Fox Business, and he says that down markets, they do actually come with an opportunity.
This pullback is actually very healthy. It's long overdue. It feels certainly uncomfortable, but in times like this is when, as a long-term investor, you really need to kind of really take out your shopping list. This is very active individual stock management, right? You want to pick up names that are on sale, really good names, top of the line, the largest mega cap names in the industries that you want that are really on sale, because this too shall pass. But I do think there's going to be a little bit more churn lower.
I actually had a conversation with my nephew earlier this year about market volatility. He said he was really concerned about his 401k. Here's the thing. He's turning 30 this year. I think he's got a little bit of time. I was like, it's adorable, and I'm glad that you're thinking about it. You're going to be okay. But Ken did say long-term investments, time is not necessarily something that pre-retirees have an abundance of. It's not really on their side. But on the other side of that coin, retirements could last 25, 30, perhaps even longer years. So what is the strategy at ProStatus to balance out those two different factors?
Well, I think in general, the focus for your nephew and most people that are in their accumulation and working years of their career is to save, grow. Right. So they're not thinking about, well, do I have a plan for income in retirement? Do I have a bucket of safe money to draw from in retirement? It's more of like, let's you said, tuck away all the seeds we can for the harvest and grow them as fast as we can. And for the most part, the stock market over time averages somewhere from 6 to 7% with dividends. So people are under the mindset that that's, as long as they keep hustling and keep saving, then by the time they retire, they have this huge pot of money. Well, luckily at ProStatus, most of the clients that we work with are 50 plus, and they're kind of going through that life change or that mindset where they're transitioning from the growth phase to the distribution phase, or at least starting to think about what that looks like. Mm-hmm. So here we kind of talk about kind of buckets of money when we sit down and meet with a client. And when we're looking at buckets of money, well, there's different tax buckets of money, which we talk about. And then there's also different buckets of money that we put aside for different goals. One being income. Do you have enough income in retirement based off of what we know now between your Social Security, if you have a pension, if you don't have a pension, or which asset are we going to allocate to generating income in retirement, as well as when there is times of market volatility like we're seeing now, like we saw in 2020, like we saw in 2008, is there a safe bucket of money to pull money from where that asset isn't declining in value due to market volatility? So that's something we really start to kind of dissect as we're talking about switching from the accumulation phase over to the distribution phase, or at least starting to plan for that.
But we talk about, retirement lasting 20, 30, perhaps even longer years in retirement. So there is money that you're not going to be touching for 15, 20 years. So there is a way where, because retirement accounts shouldn't be an all or nothing situation, where you can still think like a quote unquote younger minded investor, right?
Absolutely. And, when we do initial planning with retirees or people that are approaching, retirement, we always kill them off at 95. We always say, we kill you off at 95. And they're like, I'm not going to make it to 95. Both my parents died in 80. And I'm like, yeah, but what if you did, right? We want to make sure you don't run out of money. And to your point, there's inflation. So when we sit down and put together a plan, we're not only looking at what we think tax rates are going to be now, what tax rates are going to be in the future. We look at inflation. So we're assuming your cost of living is adjusted for inflation each year. So we are going to want to have a bucket of money, dedicated to growth to outpace inflation. So when we sit down, we look at, well, what are your goals and how are we going to accomplish those goals? And so we're always big believers in your goals should dictate your investments. Your investments shouldn't dictate your goals. So if the goal is to have, $5,000 a month in income where we don't have to worry about what the stock market's doing, then we allocate a certain dollar amount to that. Then we don't care if the market goes up or down. And then we call that the extras money. That's the money you use to go on vacation. That's the money you use to take your grandkids to Disney World. That money is there. If we have a good period of growth, you might be able to spend a little bit more. But if the markets are a little bit volatile, maybe you take 2 vacations this year instead of 3.
You bring up a good point. The I've heard paychecks versus playchecks. There is money. You're going to have monthly expenditures. Maybe your house is paid off. Maybe you're not going with a lot of debt. You're still going to have utilities. Still going to have to eat groceries. That is a thing. And the power company, the grocery store, they don't care if the markets are down. So at the end of the day, you've got to make sure those monthly expenditures are covered, whether that is through Social Security, if you've got the luxury of a pension, or using other strategies. And then the other money, the playchecks, like you said, maybe this wouldn't be the year to remodel the kitchen, or maybe you don't take as many vacations. Those are the things that you could do without. But at the end of the day, you got to have a roof over your head. You have to have power and lights for things like that. So if someone comes in and they're talking about, maybe they don't have a pension, as so many of us don't have that pension coming in anymore. Social Security, for most people, I think we see these days, that's not enough to cover it. How do you make sure that there is money coming in, I don't want to say the word guaranteed, but that consistent money coming in regardless of what the market is doing?
So we have a couple different products that we use and portfolios that we use, strategies that we use. One of them being, and I know it's a scary word and this is not meant for everybody, but when we're looking at income annuities or income generating annuities are a great product that does have protection for down markets. Again, we're not going to see a lot of growth on it because we're looking for more of that income generating product, but this acts like a pension. So we're able to really look at what the income gap is and then see, okay, well, you have this amount in a nest egg. How much can we take from that nest egg, put into an income annuity to generate that income for you for life? And some of these products even have joint lifetime riders on them, where if you pass away, your spouse will be able to continue that income. So these are really cool products. Again, not meant for everyone, meant for specific situations, but that's a way that we can provide a pension-like option to continue income.
We have a client that Sam and I met with from Bethesda last week, and they've been retired now for about a year, and they're still trying to process the fact of like not having a paycheck, right? And so we've planned for this since 2012. They've been a client of ours since 2012. They have income annuities that were initially supposed to generate the lifetime income they needed about 5 years ago, but they weren't emotionally ready to retire. So it took them about 5 more years to retire. And now we're kind of in the distribution phase. And it's funny because our software allows us to run all these different scenarios. And when they were in the office the other day, we were running like wild scenarios. Like, what if, the husband went into a nursing home and he spent $200,000 a year in a nursing home for 8 years? Like, does your plan still survive? If you want to buy
a G-Wagon, we were just being like facetious with it, but we were putting all these crazy expenses in there.
Yeah, but people are so apprehensive to spend their hard-earned money because they've been saving it all these years. It's just like that shift of that mindset. Like, this is the portfolio you grew to support your retirement. Like, don't be afraid to spend it. This is what we've planned for. So I think that's a really powerful tool when you're able to show clients, especially ones that we worked with like them for over 10, 12 years, this is what we plan for. We have more than enough income. If you want to go on, they're big travelers too. If you want to go on 8 vacations a year, we put that in the budget. It's there.
It's there.
You know what I mean? And so I think at the end of the day, it's having a plan and having the peace of mind of knowing whatever goals you want to accomplish in retirement, that we've allocated dollars to that. And there's enough nest egg there between different strategies to plan for those goals that you want in retirement. It's really powerful to be able to know that, you're not having to worry about if the market's down 10, 20% to be able to achieve those goals.
There's so many different retirement, and I know that you guys have seen it, the retirement goals and their dreams. It's going to vary from person to person.
Absolutely.
Hopefully the husband and wife are a little bit aligned. And I know there's a degree of marriage counseling that happens sometimes. So, making sure that everything is there. But I am hesitant to say that anyone probably comes to the office and says, I want to spend my retirement just worrying about the market, worrying what it's doing. They're probably not. And again, if there are people out there that are watching the markets day in and day out, it's pretty easy for that worry and that concern to come in with a proper strategy in play, knowing that, again, there is going to be ebbs and flows in the markets. And if you are nervous about that, it's not necessarily how the market's doing, it's how you're allocated. And so understanding your risk, I think, is a large part of it. And if you find out maybe you're taking more risk than necessary, or being able to shift that and to give you that confidence that you want in retirement, because I think regardless of how long it lasts, whether it is a 15-year retirement, a 30-year retirement. My great grandmother passed away at 102. My grandmother, she's 93 and still kicking it. These are both on my mom's side, so I don't know if it's just the females. Longevity is there. My mom is probably going to be here for a very long time, and I certainly hope that's the case. Whether that is strictly a male, female thing, I don't know, but you got to factor in, tackle that longevity risk. It doesn't have to be a risky thing. It should be something that should be celebrated with a proper plan in place. That is what the team at ProStatus can help you with to get you to, through, and beyond retirement.
Absolutely. And I always say that there's a process when people retire. It's almost like grief. Like you're almost like mourning your job. Like
it's a lot of psychology to it.
Yeah, there's a lot of psychology to it. A lot of it, the pulling the trigger on retirement is a very emotional decision. And we see that people kind of go through the waves. And then, our job at ProStatus is just to remind you to go over that plan, to go over, we don't need to worry about this because we have this set aside for this, this is the paycheck. It's coming in. Like, do you want it biweekly like your normal paycheck, or do you want it monthly? And it's all about the psychology of it. And Sam and I are here to hold your hand and walk you across the street to that retirement stage. And if you're 55 and over and serious about retirement and you want to talk to someone like Sam or myself to talk about your goals and how you're allocated and how you can become more in tune with your goals in retirement, give us a call, 866-597-1040. Again, 866-597-1040, or click on the 401k and portfolio protection plan or income analyzer on our website at thesavvyinvestorradio.com. We'll put together a full comprehensive plan for you. We'll look at how much risk we're taking. We'll make a suggested allocation for you of what we think makes sense to achieve your goals. And then we will work together to fine tune that plan to put you into the peace of mind where you don't have to worry about what the market is doing in retirement. Again, that's 866-597-1040. Again, 866-597-1040. We have team members standing by to schedule time on Sam and mine's calendar.